All right, viewers, we'll now get you a new expert and a tax expert at that. Before we get back to the markets, we have Mr. Ved Jain, a seasoned tax expert, now joining in to help us understand the proposal of the amendment that the government has announced as of yesterday with respect to the indexation benefit that was removed earlier, and it's now back as per the amendment, and that would be presented to the Parliament even today. Warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining in early in the morning. First up, I want to understand from you, is it good news? And of course, seems like the real estate sector has been pushing back the government on the indexation news the moment it had come back, the moment it was announced in the budget. And do you see this as a full rollback, or is it just a partial rollback? Because I guess the prospective tax will still remain, right?
Shakshi, this is very good news. Good morning, and it's a good news, and which has come late evening yesterday. I believe all middle class peoples, particularly homeowners, etc., were looking forward to this amendment. And I will say the amendment which has been proposed is a win-win situation in either of the situation. It's a very interesting amendment which has been proposed. You can make a choice whether you want to go under the old law or you want to go under the new law. Whichever is more suitable, you can pick it up. So you have the options to have the better of the two. So that's why the real sector should be very happy with this new amendment which has been proposed. I will just explain what was the amendment. See, earlier the capital gain was chargeable to tax at the rate of 20% after indexation. And what the budget proposal was of the finance minister is that we will do away with the indexation and we will straight away levy tax at the rate of 12.5%. And now that's why there was a lot of hue and cry that because the people who have bought houses long time back, their indexation cost was going up. So they will end up paying higher tax at 12.5% now. Now, in order to address that issue, the finance minister has proposed an amendment. And she said that you compute the tax liability either under the old law or under the new law. And whichever is more favorable, you can pick it up. Because the restriction has been posed that you compute the law tax under the new law, that means without indexation at the rate of 12.5%. And if this tax is more than the tax which would have been payable under the old law, that means you have get the cost indexed, then apply the rate of 20%. And if that rate tax comes lower than this rate, then you can pay the lower. So now the option will that lower of the two, meaning thereby you can enjoy the benefit of both the new law as well as under the law, whichever suits you more. That's the amendment. I believe this is a good news for all real estate sector, for a middle class taxpayer and everyone that way.
Okay. Mr. Jain, also help us understand. I think the earlier discussion was around, whether you are making above 10% interest on your property holding or below that. Those making higher than 9.5% interest rate were likely to be benefited. Those making below were likely to be impacted by this proposal. Where does that argument now stand? Does it have any, valuable argument as of now?
See, the law is now what amendment has been proposed, you need to compute the tax as per the old provision. So in the case of the old provision, the interest was allowed to be capitalized. You can do it, and then on that basis, you can compute the tax liability. And if that tax liability is lower than the new liability under the new regime, then obviously you can pay lower tax under the old regime, or that means old provision, including the interest cost.
Okay. So, Mr. Jain, for an average, property buyer, what would you say now who may be looking at buying properties as a real estate investment? What changes now?
I will say this benefit is available only to those property which has been acquired before 23rd July 2024. So, if you buy a new property today, then indexation will not be allowed. But this will facilitate that in case you intend to sell the old house which you have acquired before 23rd July and you want to buy a new house or you want to do something new, that benefit will be available. So for buying new property, this benefit will be available when you sell the old house. But in case the property has been acquired on or after 23rd July 2024, then that benefit of this will not be available. So whatever you are buying today, on that indexation will not be allowed. Because that's why we say there is a sunset clause which has been put in there. Property should have been acquired before 23rd July. but the benefit of indexation will continue to be available for all time to come in respect of those properties.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to hear from the Finance Minister on this as a clarity, as a representative of the real estate players?
I will not say there is any other clarity is required, because the law, she has very simply, in simple words, she has made an amendment. You compute the tax under the new law, you compute the tax under the old law. Whatever was the old law, you can compute. In case you believe that the tax under the old law is lower than the new under the new law, you need to pay the tax at the lower law. That's the amendment which she has.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain,
My
for
pleasure.
sharing this
Right,
wonderful
ladies and
insight for
gentlemen,
all
we'll
our
get back to the
viewers.
market. The
Thank you.
Nifty is opened. The Nifty is opened 300 points higher.